My fiancé wrote coldly, "The wedding is off. Expect a call from my lawyer." I replied calmly, "As you wish." Then, I silently removed my name from our mortgage application. Within 48 hours, her lawyer was panicking, demanding explanations. In a matter of hours, her lawyer was losing control and looked. I remember the exact moment my life took a turn. I was standing in line at the supermarket, holding a basket full of silly things like frozen croquettes and scented garbage bags, when my phone vibrated. I looked at the screen and saw her name, Lucia. My fiancé, the love of my life, or so I thought. I opened the message without thinking, expecting something about dinner or the wedding guest list. Instead, I received a punch to the gut with 8 words, "The wedding is off. Expect a call from my lawyer." That was it. No explanation, no emotion, not even an exclamation point. Just a period at the end. A cold, clinical rejection, as if I were a contract she had decided to void. I froze. The cashier had to tell me twice it was my turn. I paid mechanically, drove home in silence, and sat in the car in the driveway for 15 minutes before going inside. I didn't cry, I didn't yell. I just stayed silent. My only reply to her was, "As you wish." I knew what that message really meant. It wasn't just the end of a wedding, it was her way of saying, "Don't contact me. My lawyer will handle everything." I was being dismissed, and she thought she held all the cards. But she forgot something very important. You see, Lucia and I had just signed the preliminary documents to apply for a mortgage together. It was for a beautiful townhouse in a new area just outside of Lograno. She chose it. She had already decorated it in her head. She even told her friends it was practically hers. But nothing was finalized, and most importantly, we weren't married yet. That meant I was technically still a free man. So before even taking off my coat that night, I opened my laptop, logged into the Banco Central de Castilla mortgage portal, and canceled my application. It only took 3 clicks. 3. And with that, the whole deal fell apart like a house of cards. I know what you're thinking. Isn't that a little petty? Maybe. But after 2 years of building a life with her, after all the sacrifices I made, including turning down a job opportunity in Zaragoza to be close to her family, this wasn't about revenge. It was about dignity. Still, I didn't expect what came next. Less than 48 hours later, while I was eating reheated lasagna on the couch, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, a message arrived. "Hello, this is Paula Cebrian, attorney for Miss Lucia. We urgently request a call back from you regarding the cancellation of the mortgage. This action could constitute a breach of contract or financial interference. Please contact us immediately." I laughed. Urgent. Suddenly, her lawyer was desperate, no longer so cold and professional. Huh? I didn't return the call. I waited. And as expected, more calls came, also emails, all with an increasingly desperate tone. They didn't expect it. Lucia, in her usual style, surely thought I would be devastated, that maybe I would even beg her. But I wasn't. I was done. The next day, I got a call from a mutual friend, Elena. She sounded uncomfortable. Is it true you canceled the house thing?" "Yes," I replied. "Why? Is Lucia losing it?" Apparently, she already ordered the furniture and told her parents they would have a guest room. I almost said, "Not my problem," but I held back. I didn't want to seem cruel, although frankly, I could have been. Elena hesitated before adding, "She says you're being vindictive. That you did this to punish her." That really made me laugh. I wasn't punishing her. I had just stopped playing the fool. What Lucia didn't know yet, and what no one else knew either, was that I had already started to suspect something weeks before the breakup. There were signs. Late-night text messages from unknown numbers, work meetings with suspicious schedules, whispers behind closed doors when I entered the room. I sensed it. I just didn't want to believe it. But now that everything was falling apart, I finally saw her clearly. So I decided to stop reacting and start observing. Instead of responding to her lawyer or trying to salvage something, I kept silent. I let them despair, imagine, and squirm. And in that silence, the truth began to surface. 2 days later, someone knocked on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. It was her father, Don Ramon. I hadn't seen him since that dinner we shared a month ago when he toasted how proud he was to welcome me to the family. Now he looked tired, maybe even a little ashamed. He didn't even say hello before blurting out, "What's happening with the house?" I crossed my arms and said, "I'm not buying a house with someone who breaks up with me by text and sends her lawyer to talk. Are you here as her representative?" His eyes dropped. "I'm here because she won't tell us anything. One minute she says the wedding is off, and the next she's screaming about furniture bills and credit inquiries. I just want to understand what's happening." For a second, I considered telling him everything, but I didn't. I just said, "She ended it. Deal with the consequences." He nodded slowly and muttered something like, "I told her not to do this," and left. I watched him walk away, and a strange calmness came over me. But the story wasn't over, not even close. Because what I didn't know at the time was that Lucia hadn't just taken me by surprise. She had been planning something calculated, and I was about to discover exactly why she wanted that house so desperately. The first real crack in the surface came from someone I hadn't spoken to in months, Hugo, Lucia's cousin. We were never close, but we'd shared beers at a few family gatherings and connected because we were both a bit outsiders within their tight-knit social circle. He messaged me out of the blue. "Hey man, sorry about what happened. Didn't know it was so chaotic until now. Just wanted to say you dodged a bullet." I stared at the message for a long time before replying, "Thanks, but what do you mean?" The response was instantaneous. "Probably shouldn't say more. Just ask her about Javier." Javier. The name didn't mean anything to me at first. It was common. I'd met a few Javiers at her work parties, maybe one at those terrible weekend wine tastings she dragged me to. But none stood out. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Something in the way Hugo wrote it short, cautious, like he was dipping his toe in dangerous waters told me everything I needed to know. That name wasn't random. Javier was connected to the real reason she canceled the wedding, and I already had a good idea of what kind of connection it was. I went to her Instagram. Most of her posts were now private, but something caught my eye, her tagged photos list. There was one from a friend's engagement party a few weeks ago, the same weekend she said she was sick and staying home. She wasn't in the picture, but Javier was, his arm around her waist. Close. Intimate. My stomach churned as I sat on the couch, heating soup in the microwave and deciding on the kitchen tile design, while she was posing with another guy behind my back, feigning the flu. It was then that I stopped feeling pain and started feeling something else. Focus. I didn't just want out. I wanted to get out clean, no strings, no debts, no trace. First, I contacted the Caja Rural de Valladolid directly to ensure my mortgage cancellation was final. I also forwarded them a copy of her breakup message. They told me, off the record, that her lawyer had already called twice trying to reinstate me on the application. Too late. Then I did something I hadn't done since before we got engaged. I called Marcos, my old college roommate, and now a real estate lawyer in Zaragoza. He'd offered me a job a year ago. I'd turned it down because Lucia insisted we put down roots near her family. I told him I was available again. He laughed and said, "About time." We scheduled a video call for Monday. And still, nothing from Lucia. Total silence. That was her style. Never confront directly, always through layers, lawyers, friends, pressure. But I wasn't playing her game anymore. Or so I thought. Because on Sunday morning, the next bomb dropped. I woke up to 32 missed notifications. Messages, calls, emails. Not from her. From the bank. Apparently, someone had tried to access our joint savings account the night before, the one we opened just for wedding expenses. I funded it with 12,000 euros from my bonus. We agreed it would be for catering and venue deposits. But the transaction was flagged as suspicious because they tried to transfer everything to a private checking account in her name only. I called the bank immediately. They froze the account. And while I was still talking to them, a new email arrived. Subject: urgent, regarding wedding funds. It was from Paula Cebrian, her lawyer. Mr. Faze, my client is concerned about the funds held in the joint savings account for your now canceled wedding. Given that she has made several payments to said account, she believed she is entitled to recover a portion. Lie. She hadn't contributed a single cent to that account. I had the records. Every deposit was mine. She always kept her money separate, claiming it was for flexibility. But now that everything was over, she wanted to empty my pockets and call it fair. I didn't reply. Instead, I called Marcos again. He told me, you have the paper trail. Every euro is covered. But I'll tell you something, if she's desperate enough to try this, it's not over. And he was right. That night, I got a voicemail from Lucia, the first direct contact since that infamous breakup message. Her voice trembled, emotional, as if she wanted to sound devastated. I didn't want it to be like this. I panicked. Okay, things got complicated, and I didn't know how to talk to you about it. Please don't think I wanted to hurt you. I listened to it twice, then deleted it. I didn't respond because there's something I understood. When you show someone you're not afraid to walk away, they get scared. Lucia was used to being in control. She wasn't prepared for someone to change the rules of the game. Monday arrived, and I signed the new job offer from Marcos's firm, remote work to start, with a relocation package included. I decided to officially move. I took back the reins of my life. But Tuesday was when everything really started to unravel. I got another call from Elena. Her voice was tense, like she'd been crying. You're not going to believe this, but Lucia is saying she lost the baby. I froze. Is she saying it's mine? I felt my heart stop. But Javier has been staying at her house every night since the breakup. People have started to talk. My voice was barely a whisper. How far along did she say she was? 8 weeks, supposedly. I did the math. 8 weeks ago, Lucia was doing a body cleanse and wouldn't let me touch her. Said she was resetting her body before the honeymoon. That was the last time we were intimate. 9 weeks ago, to be exact. Which meant there was a very good chance that child wasn't mine. But she was already laying the groundwork, setting a trap, tying me to something permanent. Maybe to claim paternity, maybe even child support. All this while I disappeared from her mortgage future. And the worst part is, I already knew exactly what she would do next. That night, I barely slept. I lay in the dark trying to fit all the pieces together, the timing, the motive, the real reason why she left me by text and not in person. Because that message wasn't a strategy. It wasn't a real breakup. Lucia didn't stop loving me. She planned her escape and controlled the narrative from the beginning, before I could say a single word. And now she was claiming to be pregnant with my child. Except it couldn't be true. The dates didn't match up. We hadn't slept together in weeks. By then, she was already distant, cold, even condescending. She called that phase a pre-wedding detox. Said she wanted to arrive pure to our wedding night. At the time, I didn't question it. I thought it was just another eccentricity. But now it was clear. She was pushing me away because she already knew she'd made a mistake. Or worse, that she'd crossed a line she couldn't undo. And Javier, he wasn't just a slip-up. He was the reason. The next morning, her lawyer wrote again, this time with a much more aggressive tone. Given the current circumstances, my client is considering taking legal action for financial abandonment and emotional distress. She has also asked me to formally notify you of her pregnancy and your alleged parental responsibilities. Alleged. That word chilled me to the bone. They were trying to rush me, to corner me, to force me to act emotionally or make some mistake they could use against me. But I didn't panic. I acted rationally. I contacted Marcos again and told him everything: the alleged pregnancy, the doubts about paternity, the financial threats. He told me, "You anticipate. Make the first legal move. You need a paper trail showing that she's manipulating the situation." So that's what I did. That same day, I hired a local lawyer specializing in family and financial law. Her name was Teresa Galvin. She was sharp, cold, just what I needed. She drafted a formal letter and sent it to Lucia's lawyer the next day. In legal terms, it said, "Paternity is denied until a verified DNA test is performed. There will be no financial or emotional contribution until any claims are biologically confirmed. Any attempt to access joint accounts or portray my client as abusive will be considered defamation and will be met with a countersuit." She even added a clause demanding full financial disclosure of Lucia's current assets in case she tried to claim I owed her money for the house we were no longer buying. I wasn't messing around anymore. Less than 2 hours after the email was sent, my phone rang again. This time, Lucia didn't leave a message. She called again. And again. 6 times in a single afternoon. I didn't answer. But Teresa got a call from Paula Cibrian that same night. She said Lucia was distraught, that she felt attacked, that we should have handled this privately, that we were turning a personal matter into a public one. To which Teresa replied, she made it public when she involved a lawyer and threatened legal action. My client is simply responding. I wish I could say I didn't feel anything, but the truth is, I felt it all: anger, sadness, regret. Mostly regret. Not for ending things, but for ignoring every red flag that had been waving at me for a long time. Like when she refused to combine our finances until after the wedding, or when she controlled every social event on the calendar, or every time I mentioned a prenuptial agreement, and she laughed, saying, "Don't you trust me?" But the worst part is, I think a part of me still wanted to believe it wasn't real, that maybe Lucia was just scared, that maybe Javier had been a mistake, and that she was just trying to fix it. But reality has a brutal way of hitting you right when you let your guard down. That blow came 2 nights later from Javier. It was around 10 p.m. I was home alone watching TV when I received a Facebook message from a profile I didn't recognize. No profile picture, just a name, Javier. The message read, "We need to talk. I don't want to be part of the game she's playing." I stared at the screen for a long time. My hands were shaking. Finally, I replied, "Talk." He answered, "She told me you guys had already broken up, that the wedding was canceled months ago, and that you were only helping her with the house out of guilt." I felt my blood boil. We were engaged until the very day she sent me that message. That day, not before. He was silent for about 10 minutes. Then he wrote, "She said she was afraid of you. That you were unpredictable." I felt the ground disappear beneath my feet. What? She told you I was afraid of you. That you had anger issues, that you used to break things when you got mad. I was paralyzed. I never laid a hand on Lucia. I never raised my voice in a threatening way. The worst we had were arguments about time, about how she always prioritized her friends, about how she scheduled our relationship as if it were a meeting. But physical violence? Never. Not even close. Do you believe that? I asked. He took a while to respond, then wrote, "Not anymore." The next morning, I called Teresa Galvin and told her everything. She acted immediately, filing a preemptive legal counter-defense, basically, advance protection in case Lucia tried to fabricate any accusations of abuse to gain sympathy in court. This was getting darker than I ever imagined. But the final blow came on Friday. I received an email from the mortgage lender. It wasn't a simple automatic update. It was a personal apology. They had been contacted again by Paula Cibrian, Lucia's lawyer, asking if there was any way to proceed with the loan without me. Lucia had tried to forge a modified document, claiming I had withdrawn voluntarily and without financial expectations. The bank detected it immediately because I hadn't signed anything. She had forged my signature. I forwarded the email to Teresa. She was silent for 10 minutes, then called me. This is serious. We can take this to the police. I didn't want that. Not yet. I just wanted it all to be over. But part of me knew this wasn't over because Lucia was losing control, and desperate people don't give up quietly. The week that followed was a blur. Every day, something new arose, a new crisis that Lucia and her lawyer tried to create. Exhausting, but also strangely satisfying to watch her lose control, to see how the more she tried to manipulate the situation, the more she exposed herself. I got another call from Elena. This time, her voice was full of panic. She practically whispered, "You're not going to believe this, but Lucia is saying she lost the baby." My stomach dropped. What? I yelled involuntarily. She posted it last night. Now everyone is sending condolences. She says she lost the baby right after the breakup. I sat motionless, absorbing her words. The sheer audacity of it left me speechless. She was using a fake loss to soften her betrayal, to gain compassion. And the worst thing was that now Lucia was trying to control the narrative, painting herself as the victim. Was the miscarriage real? I didn't know. But it was clear that everything was slipping out of her hands. She was desperate to regain control of her story, and she was using a fake loss as an escape route. It wasn't long before another sign appeared. Paula Cebrian, her lawyer, contacted Teresa again, this time with a conciliatory tone. We understand this has become more complicated than anticipated. Lucia is going through some personal problems. We want to avoid further conflict. But Teresa didn't let them off the hook. She tried to forge mortgage documents, she reminded them. If she continues down this path, this will cease to be a financial conflict. I'm not afraid to escalate this. We will pursue criminal charges if necessary. And for the first time, I felt something like satisfaction. After so many maneuvers in the shadows, the cards were on the table, and I wasn't going to give in. Lucia had no idea what was coming. That Friday, I received a call from Banco Central de Castilla. It was no longer just about the mortgage. It was about the fraudulent documents. They had alerted the authorities. The matter was now under investigation. Lucia had crossed the line. It wasn't just a breakup anymore. It was criminal activity. I forwarded everything to Teresa. Within hours, she arranged a meeting with the prosecutor's office. The following days were chaotic. Every day, a new attempt by Lucia to salvage her image. Increasingly erratic social media posts, crying selfies, vague messages about being misunderstood, insinuations that others destroy what is good. The confident, arrogant woman I had loved was unraveling in front of everyone, clinging to any remaining attention. But I didn't respond. I refused to play her game. It wasn't about the money or the house anymore. It was about something deeper. She thought she could control everything, even me, that she could humiliate me and get away with it. But the truth is, the one who always had control was me. I didn't have to stoop to her level. I didn't have to get dirty. I just held my ground. And then came the call that changed everything. It was her father, Don Ramon. But his tone this time was different. It wasn't the cold voice of the mediator. He sounded like someone who had finally opened his eyes. "I need to apologize," he said. "I was wrong about everything. I should have seen it." He told me everything. How Lucia had been seeing Javier even before the breakup, how she faked the pregnancy, how she invented the loss, even how she asked her own parents for money to keep up the charade. I had been the fool all that time. "I'm sorry," he repeated. "I'll do everything I can to fix this. We'll sort it out." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to yell at him for not seeing it sooner, for allowing her to do it. But another part was already beginning to accept the truth. Nothing was going to change the past, the pain, the betrayal. The only thing I could do was move on. And that's what I did. I blocked her number, deleted everything related to her messages, photos, social media. I even returned some of her things. I left them at her parents' house. She tried to contact me a few more times, But by then, I was a different person, so far from that life, from that version of myself, that I simply didn't care anymore. And that was the hardest thing to accept, realizing that no matter how much I loved her, the woman I thought I knew never existed. It was all a game, and I was just one of her pieces. It's been a year since that nightmare. From what I know, Lucia's life is a mess. I don't care to know more. I've moved on. I'm rebuilding my life. I bought a new place, just for me. The mortgage is in my name. And for the first time in a long time, I feel free. But I will never forget what I learned from all this. Don't let someone else's manipulation define your life. I was a fool, but I won't be again.